bagpipe. They had their sacred hoop. They had all of these beautiful things, and they had a clear negotiating position. It was the other side that wasn't interested in resolving anything. The United States government. They were only interested in sending the army in. So we really didn't have a lot of influence. The only thing we could do was add maybe 4 or 5 people to the front, and we weren't prepared to do that. So we left. We tried our best to help them monetarily, and in other ways. But I have to say that Wounded Knee is one of the saddest moments in American history. The first Wounded Knee and the second Wounded Knee, there were massacres at both. We always had good relationships with the American Indigenous movement, AIM. It didn't have to do with our politics. It had to do with our spirituality. Most AIM people were not from reservations. They were from the cities. So they used the I word with the ness at the end was new to them. Wearing beadwork, the indigenous design was all new to them. They didn't speak the language. They didn't know any of the songs. They were in the poorest part of the cities. That in itself was quite a contribution because it awoke a lot of people. The message of AIM was, quote, you better get out of the city and go back to your grandfather and maybe learn from him. Go home. There is no future in these cities for you, end quote. But as the national organizations were, there wasn't just AIM. There were the women of All Red Nation, WARN. They were just as political as AIM. They were organizing daycare centers, birthplaces, schools, food pantries. That made more sense to me than marching up and down the street with signs. The leaders of AIM meant well, but they had such a gigantic opposition. They were going to be assassinated, and everybody knew it. So they had to operate in the shadows. In 1977, we attended a United Nations conference on the rights of indigenous people in Geneva. We took a very strong position there, saying that we owe our allegiance to anybody else except ourselves. It was accepted. Representatives from almost every indigenous nation of North and South America were there. We made a statement called Basic Call to Consciousness. It was selected as a delegate to I was selected as a delegate to travel to many parts of the world, including what is then called the People's Republic of, oh my gosh, here we go, Jimaharea, also known as Libya. Okay. We were invited there to partake in solidarity and an understanding about our right to live according to our own ways. We were well received and were invited to feasts the same way that we do here. When you're finished with words, you sanction it with a feast. The Libyans honored our traditional ways, and in return we honored them by offering sacred tobacco. I've been to many other countries, and original peoples understand each other immediately. No words are needed. There's an immediate sense of brotherhood and unity. In the early 1970s, we were really amazing times. We had communications between many Native communities throughout the Americas through Asquanasi notes. There was a lot of networking going on, and our people really came together. We had something called unity conventions with Native people from many different areas traveling around and visiting each other, reviving our spirits of, they used the I word with the NESS. So I can say indigenous. We went to many places, Oklahoma, Florida, New Mexico, developing our relationship as a nation. not as tribes or reservations, as well as our spiritual connectedness. We did it by talking to our continent, to our content, as one of all native people, as sharing a responsibility to the universe and the environment. That's when we started using the term Turtle Island, which has become very common now. The same with caretaking the land for the seventh generation, quote unquote, that are coming towards us. We realize that we have to think of those terms, in those terms. That was an amazing transformation. When you consider that we were confined on reservations, where there were so many things we couldn't do. We broke out of that. We liberated our thinking. We liberated our hope. And we sense that hope in our unity. Now, anytime they say me, we, it's not me. I'm a white person. This is someone else. It was an amazing time. Our chiefs, the Warrior Society, had very clear minds and were acting in ways that immediately inspired the other nations. Thank you, by the way, JJ. That met them, and the women, this is not love. Piece that they would be listened to. We were able to get back to what we believe, to our way of 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 life, not according to what somebody else believes, to be our way of life. You see, before that, we used to behave like Hollywood portrayed. Oh, wait. Before that, we used to behave like Hollywood portrayed us. Yeah, that's exactly. Now I'm breaking up? What the fuck? Ugh. How about now? Am I good? How about now? Am I good? Am I good now? People can listen to it on the background now. But thank you for the advice. But people can listen to the background now. Am I fine now? Am I back? Am I good? Okay. We brought into that. So let me just read this. Our chiefs, okay, hold on. So it was a big transformation at that time to use what really belongs to us, and our leaders were up for it. It was amazing. We had the sense that that's what made the difference. Before that, nobody wanted to hear from those indigenous people on the reservation, but now we had an audience. Lakota people were speaking up, talking about the Sundance again, the Ojibwa. We're coming back to their 7 fire ceremonies. The fires became a symbol of requickening and lovingfulness. And we called, oh my gosh, here we go, everybody. The Ganararan Hangangashkonowashki Shirara. Sorry, everybody. It became trans-indigenous. It was everywhere. The fire is what brings people together. When you think of it, a fire is warmth, light, sparkly. But when you don't think of it, it's just a fire. Once somebody puts tobacco in the fire, it becomes a sacred fire. It's very different. That's what we were experiencing. We were seeing everything that was happening, and we wondered what our role was in that context. Should we start traveling to meet all those people, or should we wave the fabric of our life stronger first as the law of great peace people? I think that's what. Yeah, that was a critical decision. We have to understand who we are before someone asks you to explain it. We couldn't go there empty-minded. We had to have a fullness of our own ways. We've had conflicts since the Europeans have come here to take our land, our resources, and our spirit away. We always had to defend ourselves against these attacks based on our defense on the law of great peace. We have to maintain the vision of our original instructions in order to defend our people. Our language is key for remembering these instructions. It was given to us to access our own identity. When we do our ceremonies, our festivals, and our Thanksgivings in our language, with our children listening, it's the words of our ancestors for time immemorial that we were reviving through our ceremonies. Asquanasi appears to be the focus of every destructive force associated with American government policies. I remember that when I was a young boy, I lived in the pristine area. The rivers were natural and beautiful. Today, it was all changed. It has all become man-made. We live in a complicated geographic location straddled between Quebec, Ontario, and the United States on the St. Lawrence River. But since I can remember, we've always declared ourselves an independent people. We are not American or Canadian citizens. We are, here we go, everybody, the Gun and Huskingan people. Sorry. The defense of our sovereignty is somewhat that we have always advocated for very strongly. The elected system of the government, which they call tribal councils in the US and band councils in Canada, have been imposed on us. Asquanasi is a prime example of the government's oppression of Native peoples. All the examples are very clear. When you cross the Canadian-US border that passes through our community, we have to present a foreign government's identification card. They won't even accept our own documents. The foreign borders brings us to experience economic and psychological oppressions every day in Asquanasi. We raise our children to be very aware of this and not to buy into their canonization or their Americanization. We are sovereign. Geningin Han Hashkena people. And we should proudly stand up and declare so that every opportunity. More recently in 2009, we had problems with the Canadian Immigration Customs buildings in Cornwall Island, which is right in the middle of our territory. The Canadian border agents wanted to have a sidearm, a gun. They didn't have guns on the Canadian side up until that point. We had a long history of conflicts with border agents, and we thought that if those people were armed, they were going to shoot somebody. Our people said that we couldn't allow them to have guns on our territory. We set up a camp near their offices, and the Border Patrol officers' response was to run away and leave the buildings. The bridge that passes through our territory was simply shut down altogether. We had no way of circulate through our own community anymore. Today, their building there is still vacant. They set up a different office on the south side in what they called Cornwall, which they use now, and they ended up keeping their guns. So we only have one. At least they're not in our territory, but they're still harassing us on a daily basis. Our people used to go shopping or for groceries on the American side, and some of them were so poor that they bought their groceries on credit for a week. When the border agents wanted them to pay taxes on their groceries, then when they crossed the border, Jesus, How the hell are you going to pay taxes on groceries if you can barely have the money to buy the groceries? We also shut down the bridge. And the government finally acknowledged that those tariffs don't concern us indigenous peoples on our territory, on our traditional territory. Hold on a second. Oh, no, you stay there. All right, here we go. Where was I at? We're always, Okay, we're always in conflict with the oppressive laws here. It's because we understand our freedom, and we are ready to defend it. We have so many different so-called law enforcement agencies, quote unquote, trying to control us in Asquanasi, because it is divided between New York State, Ontario, and Quebec. In all their different federal, provincial, states, and country police departments, one time was Franklin County that tried to impose its county police here in Asquanasi. Those cops started harassing our people all the time, ticketing us for having bad signal, lights and stuff like that. So we went to them and said, quote, "Look, from what we understand, the police department is supposed to be there to help people, but here you are harassing them for the things we don't think are necessary," end quote. They would not listen. They had a badge on their chest and a gun at their hip and thought that it gave them some authority. We occupied their building and we threw them out. We threw them right out as a symbol that we mean business. In 1990, before anything happened in Kane Hasatiki. Sorry. There was already a conflict relating to casinos in Asquanasi, and the army was already there with the state police. They had all the roads blocked and controlled, the waters both on the Canadian and the American side. There had been 2 men killed there, and there was an investigation. I got a phone call from a friend, David Gabriel, asking me to go to Hasatasiki to perform songs for the graduation of the seniors adult education program, which happened to be happening at the time. So 4 or 5 of us grabbed drums and rattles. We jumped in my van and went there. We went straight to the pines of Hasatangi, where ceremonies usually take place. There was a dirt pile at the entrance, but everything seemed normal. We sang, and meanwhile, people told us what was happening, that the city of Oka wanted to cut trees in the cemetery of the pines of Hasatake, which explains their golf course. We said, what? Why don't they build it on their side? So we decided to stay, and on the morning of July 11th, 1990, at 5:30, we woke up to burn tobacco, and tobacco, and say a Thanksgiving address. We're waiting for the city people to come for the pines, and suddenly there was a massive percussion grenade that went off, and you could see this whole sea of tactical police coming at us with tear gas. That's how it started. You know, we were just burning tobacco. There was a 17-second exchange of gunfire, and that's when Corporal Mercel Lehman got shot. There was a long investigation about that, and they never discover who shot him. They think they did. They think we did. We think they did. They think we did. That's the long story. But it was over the principle of how much land can be given up for a golf course. Should you give up your ceremony for private golf course? Should you give up these pristine pines where people have been coming for hundreds of years to celebrate all the small things that they're happy about in their communities. In all these difficult times, the guide flame has always been my understanding of the law of the great law of peace. We were given these instructions. We were given the way to have a good mind, a way of peace, a way of strength, plus our 4 original ceremonies. That has been the guiding light and the pleasure of the resolution of any internal hardship. The solution when one is scared or anything like that. That's how I've been able to continue. And my family, I have been the strength for everything I have done. In the last 15 years, the people started coming back to the law of great peace. At one time in the 1950s, there were almost only Christians in Esquimalt. The Longhouse people were underground. They would practice their way of life in the privacy of their homes, with the windows curtained off so nobody could see. Today it's wide open. Our young people are coming home in droves, and they know their songs and their ceremonies. I believe that we're going to survive. There was a time in my life when I had some doubts about that, but today I'm confident that we're going to survive. In the future, I believe that we will not allow our way of life to be tampered by a colonial power, with the colonial powers. The settler peoples also have got to come back and understand that they too have those instructions to be kind to Mother Earth, to be kind to the rivers, to be kind to the trees and all life. They seem to have forgotten that, and that's where the conflict is. They too have to come home now. And that's the last. That's not it. Part 3, rekindling resistance. Part 3. Hello, Two-Spirit, if you're still here. Hello, everybody, if you just came in. Rekindling resistance. This section delves into the cultural roots of Mohawk resistance, explaining the protocols, symbols, and traditions that support its sovereign stance. The first text of Teninathi lays down the basic principles of the law of great peace, the great law of peace. I think I'm doing that. I think I'm reversing it. Introduces its complex systems and consensual decision making to a larger public. Hold on a second. All right. The meaning of the Gainer Hungo was 117 articles and their corresponding wampums, as well as the spiritual organization of the council. The second text by Turan Huntingon explores the deeper meaning of functions of the wampums in the Iroquois traditions, revealing how they are materially built to help the words and enclose the memory of past agreements, making them available for future generations to interpret. The third text by Carharo explains how being a warrior is an everyday responsibility that pertains to every free and sovereign indigenous person. Basic principles of the law of great peace. And it's the Gun Hateneth Rotis Garangwake. Here we go. Bear with me. Hentenetha Warrior Society is a Gunhen Gunhunkan from the Bear Clan in Gunhunwik, initially working in the fashion industry. Gunhuntenethi went on to play a key role as speaker and writer in the indigenous resistance role, which she has fulfilled constantly for the last 6 decades. During this time, she witnessed and took part in numerous struggles, including the blockade of Asquanasi border crossing in 1968. She had published several books, including Mohawk Warrior 3, the trial of Lang Sangani Noriega at 20 to 20, and has been in charge of running the Mohawk Nation News Service since the Oka crisis in 1990. She now cares for her 20 children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren. Hatinatha means she who is always at the forefront. Thank you. Thank you for saying what that meant. Okay. Do you understand the principles of the law of great peace? 4 aspects must be considered. 1. The structure of the longhouse, i.e., the people within our clans, and our rights and duties. 2. How an issue is passed from one party to another, so that there are checks and balances. 3. The basic criteria when deliberating those of peace, righteousness, and power. And 4. The symbols such as the small condolence ceremony when we cleanse our eyes so that we may see clearly, our ears so we may listen well, and drink clear pure water so we may speak clearly and truly. In the process, the will of each individual is preserved. These are different parts of the law of great peace that must all work together so we can function communally in our best interest. Today, some groups have formed which use one aspect to the exclusion of the others, such as using only the structures without the philosophy, or using the symbols and turning it into a religion, or using the structures and putting another ideology into it, such as the handsome lake code. Sounds like a little bit of combating liberalism. Two-Spirit, if you're here. Sounds a little bit like combating liberalism, just in an indigenous way. Yes, acquire peace. Digana Wida did not base his ideas on faith and hope. He describes the great white pine, that reached into the sky, symbolizing the sisterhood and brotherhood of all human beings. It is at its roots where the 5 nations of the original Rotana-Hassanani Confederacy. A structure was designed to make the individual the center of power, so that no dictator could seize control. The people, these are so functionings like democratic centralism. The people met to discuss issues and came into the understanding. The governmental structures include the separation of powers of the judicial, executive, and legislative branches. The Rotentinanhoasanai nation were made up of democratic social units to form a democratic, peaceful confederacy of all indigenous people. After the upheaval of indigenous culture by the European invasion, the Iroquois and many of the indigenous nations such as the Aztecs, Blackfeet, Sioux, and Hopis had the same ideas about the return of indigenous thought. The Dangana Wida saw that if war continued, greed and suffering would continue, and eventually our extinction will be inevitable, kind of like how it is now. We would distrust each other and the principles of peace of the Confederacy. We would become involved with the serpents, the Europeans, the materialism, who would become so powerful that they would almost destroy the indigenous people. Dungana Wenda told our people that when the worst time came to gather our minds to set out in the great law of peace, he meaning his message, would return as a light coming from the east after the fight among the serpents, at which time the indigenous people would remain neutral. We would resemble renew our knowledge of the principles of the great law of peace. The Dunkana Wenda said that the fight between the serpents would become so violent that there would be an environmental catastrophe. Quote, the mountains would crack, the rivers would boil, and the fish would turn up on their bellies, end quote. He also predicted that all the elms trees would die once the Dankananwenda's message returned the indigenous people would be greater nation than ever before. The abuse of the Europeans as seen as a time for us to renew our minds and help to lead mankind to respect the natural world. The Rotentenan Hassanani established separate nations along the Great Lakes, the St. Lawrence River, and the upper New York states of farther south. We, along with the Tuscaroras, the Huron, the Eries, the Winros, Cherokee, the Menquans, spoke in Iroquois language. Each nation had national territories and trade relations with our Iroquois and non-Iroquois neighbors. Now, I was given permission by Two-Spirit for this book to say that, but I will not say that outside of this book. I will not say these things. I will say Haudenosaunee when speaking, but I've been given permission to bring on the point. So, thank you, Two-Spirit. All Iroquoian peoples were organized into clans and shared the same basic structures and ceremonies of Thanksgiving to creation. In particular, the Owentan Tasi, oh my gosh, Gurinha Hawati Gawin, the words that come before as provided in the Wampum 7 was common to all indigenous peoples. It indicates that the law of great peace, the great law of peace, the law of great peace. I'm thinking I'm getting that incorrect because my dyslexia is coming out. Is an interdependent system of relationships of all elements of nature, which are all equal. For many generations, there had been blood feuds within and between Iroquois nations, usually over seeking justice for the death of someone from their clan. This blood feud threatened our system of law, order, and social unity. The Five-Nation Confederacy was at first a confederation of 5 Rotenhanosani/Iroquois nations: the Mohawk, the Gunquan, the Ganyenga, the Ongadanga, the Onondaga, the Oweda, and Seneca, the Tuscarora, who came north from the Carolinas, joined the Confederacy in 1722, making it the Sixth Nation. According to Rotenhanosani mythology, the Great Law of Peace was meant not only for us, but for everyone. A united nations of people who united for peace. To illustrate how effective the philosophy was, their weapons of war were buried, so as not to fight among themselves again, vowing to uncover them only for defense against invaders. The Great Law of Peace reflected the blood ties, which strengthened the unity of the five nations. Danganana Wedea, knew that the blood ties were a positive force which brought together Haudenosaunee politics, culture, and social order. These were the ties the newcomers had to alter in order to possess the land and establish themselves in North America. The colonialists have not succeeded. Haudenosaunee women are the progenitors of the soil, Wampanoag 44, and hold the land for the future generations. The land cannot be alienated. Thus, the Europeans had to displace the indigenous women so they could manipulate the men in order to take the land and resources. Because the women were the leaders. They're the ones that brought unity, and that's why. They had no fondness for the understanding of the women's traditional position of power. The Law of Great Peace was 117 articles called the Gowanai or Wampums. Each law is associated with wampum belts or strings of wampum beads and is structured as followed. Oh my gosh, here we go. Wampums 1 to 16. The organizations of the Confederacy. Di Gananawanda Wida, and the chiefs plant the trees of peace. Thadudaho, and the Onondaga chiefs become the caretakers of the council fire. The nations are divided into three parties. Mohawks are appointed as the leaders of the Confederacy. How issues are passed and how new laws are made. Wampums 17 to 27. The rights, duties, and qualifications of statesmen. The roles of the clan mothers, whose chiefs are deposed or resign. Right. I'm gonna make sure I got this word right. I hate it when I get the simple ones messed up. Hold on a second. I was right. Resign. The qualifications and roles of chief. Wampanoag 28 to 35. Condolence of chiefs. How condolences are conducted. How titles are passed on. Wampum 35. Pine Tree chiefs. Temporary chiefs. Wampum 26 to 41. War chiefs. Their titles, names, functions, installations, and duties. Wampums 56 to 65. The meanings of symbols, such as wampum strings, and bound 5 arrows, meaning unity in one body and one mind. Who are traitors and how they are punished. The Confederacy belt, reading of Great Law of Peace, writes the installations and bearing of the weapons. Wampum 79 to 92. War, the Warrior Society, establishing peace with and outside nations, conducting warfare, relations after war, the peace chiefs and related protocol. Wampum 30 and 93 to 104. Rights of the people, referendum, men's council, women's council, all council fires, the rights of ordinary men and women's. The Festival of Thanksgiving, Wampums 108 to 117. Funerals and rites of passage. Not every wampum will be discussed, only those that illustrate the basic philosophies and structures of the Law of Great Peace. Great White Roots, Wampum 2, provides the possibility for those other than the Iroquois to trace the roots and take shelter under the Tree of Peace, as long as they obey the Law of Great Peace and live according to the philosophies of Warrior Society. Or I don't know if that's not Warrior Society. The Haudenosaunee Confederacy structure. Wampum 5 to 11 set out the structures of the Haudenosaunee Confederacy, the 5-nation hereditary council. The Rotan Hanashini means those who make the longhouse. Each nation keeps control over its own affairs. It deals with its own nation of the Confederacy and with non-members nations that a general council becomes involved with it. Within each nation, local settlements and clans are autonomous and independent. Clans and settlements have their own meetings. Nations meet in the National Council. All of the nations meet in the Grand Council as the issue warrant. The Rotenanhashanai Confederate Council consists of 50 civil chiefs, referred to as the quote Circle of Chiefs. Onondaga 14, Mohawk 9, Seneca 8, Owanda 9, Cayuga 10. The Haudenosaunee Confederacy structure is not hierarchical. It is a series of circles within circles, with the process of forming relations between each segment of society. They operate in a I can't say the dang word. Solidical. I'm gonna have to look it up to get it right. It's your circles. It's your circles. We're talking about your circles. In Mao's time, it's the mass line theory. Cyclical. I can't say cyclical for some reason. Cyclical. And the mass line theory is not a straight line. It's a spiral. So it's a little different than cyclical basis. Just like the natural world, the most important is the unborn individual surrounded by a circle of the family, then by the circle of the clan, then by the circle of the chiefs, then by the circle of the, here we go, the gun, the law of great peace, Mohawk, National Council, and finally, by the Confederacy Grand Council. Every individual belongs to a clan, which is organized within each community. Each community is the responsibility of the particular nation, and each of these nations is part of the Confederacy. And they have a picture. Here we go. I'm gonna show you the picture. Come on. That is the picture. The circles. The circle of... Sorry. It sounds like democratic centralism that we say as like Marxists. Yeah. Sovereignty and self... Wait, what time is it? I'm getting so involved with this book. Sovereignty and self-determination begins with the individual. All people are recognized to be free and equal, from the very youngest to the oldest. It is provided in the great law of peace that liberty and equality demands great moral fortitude, and it is the nature of a free man to defend freedom. Love that. The warriors are the Mohawk Warrior Society. In his medicine pouch, a warrior carries tobacco, soil, and his umbilical cord. Sigananin is a state of complete peace, tranquility, and enlightenment. The people of the clan select the chiefs, clan mothers, and war chiefs based on the people's decision. The clans can depose the chiefs, who are the spokesmen for the people, not the decision makers. The Warrior Society is actually a power of the people in action. The war chiefs are not the distinct class and can only give orders on military expeditions. They sit on the council meeting and make sure the law of great peace is followed. The clans can dispose of the war chief when necessary and can even call the war party back from the field. It is said that when the war is declared, it is based on factual evidence with no doubt, allowing the men to wage it with all of their might. It is said that all Rotantanan Hashanani are born warriors, and that it is the duty of every person to become a protector of the people and the land. The Rantana Hashani, the makers of the Longhouse or Confederation, do not rule by force, but by the power of the mind of Nanganara. They are powerful because they are able to make complex alliances based on pervasive debates on the reality of issues which people share. The 5 nations refer to themselves in Mohawk as Angankowenhanoi, which means people forever. It is the basis of the universal actions in case of war. Shakanan with witness law of peace and war provides that after a war with a foreign nation, the foreign nation is to be persuaded 3 times by reason and urged to join the great peace. If this fails, the chief of the offending nation is clubbed to death, and war continues until won by the 5 nations. If a nation willingly joins, their internal government system may continue so long as it is constituted with the great law of peace, the law of great. They have to treat people as equals with human rights. In Wampum 6, the Gunhanhengan Mohawks are recognized as heads and leaders of the Rontenan Shanani 5-nation confederacy. The Gunnaninkanhanga were the first to accept the great law of peace and helped one of the founders, Duncan Nanawanda, to gather the other nations together. It is therefore a violation of great law of peace to introduce measures in a Confederate Council if the Gunhanagankananki have protested against them. The decision-making process gave the member nation the actual power to veto, which equalized all the nations. This position may make the Gunhanaganakis feel they have to take on the duty to maintain the law of great peace and its philosophy, and to not make any compromises with the Handsome Lake Code. I'm gonna make sure. The Great Law of Peace. Okay, that's how it is. Great Law of Peace. I keep doing the damn freaking dyslexia thing. Thank you. Start the Great Law of Peace. Okay. On the other hand, the requirement of complete understanding on all decisions of the Confederacy Council gives all nations a de facto veto power, and thus does not set up the Gunnani Gunhankai apart from other brethren. Those Mohawks who refuse to compromise with the Handsome Lake Code find it is contrary to how they see the natural world. We are constant in our adherence to the original Constitution. All members of the Confederacy have a duty to understand and explain the philosophy of peace and powerful thought throughout the 6 nations, to other indigenous nations, and throughout the world when asked to do so. They are, however, Nanahashani people who do not realize this and have embraced the Handsome Lake Code, who realize that, not realizing that it is not intrinsically traditional to indigenous thinking, but is colonial. Interesting. So it sounds like Lenin talking at the Mensheviks. The Mohawk's like, no, this is idealism, and you're this, and this is not traditional. You must rectify this. Consensual decision-making process. In Wapanum 5-11, Dangana Wada outlined the decision-making process. The Mohawk Council is divided into 3 parts, with each having 3 chiefs, for a total of 9. The 3 clans are the Bear Clan, the first part of the Firekeepers, the Turtle Clan, the second part, and the Wolf Clan, the third part. Who's in here? Oh, Cosmonaut, we're doing a reading. A well keeper announces the subject for discussions and passes the issue over to the council fire, to the Turtle Clan and the Wolf Clan. The Bear Clan listens to the discussions of the Turtle Clan and the Wolf Clan. If an error is made or the proceeding are irregular, the Bear Clan calls attention to it. When a case is decided by the Turtle Clan and the Wolf Clan, the Bear Clan confirms their decisions. If the Turtle Clan disagrees with the Wolf Clan, then the Bear Clan, as the Firekeeper, asks the 2 sides to deliberate again and to provide new information. Usually the 2 sides are now likely to agree. The decisions is then accepted by the Bear Clan. Kind of like when things are made, things are done, you go in, you implement it. Oh, it was a mistake? No worries. Yeah, that sounds like a bunch of capitulations and like revisionist shit. Should the Turtle Clan and Wolf Clan again disagree on their second deliberation, the Bear Clan, as the Firekeepers, then pass the decision that it sees fit. Should the Bear Clan disagree with the decision of the Wolf Clan and Turtle Clan, those decisions are the same. Both the Turtle Clan and the Wolf Clan must deliberate again. If the decision is the same as before, the Bear Clan has no choice but to sanction their joint decision in the decision-making process. Sounds like, yeah, all opinions have to be considered. And these are bullet points. All must be completely reasonable. All should come with an open mind. All must fully understand the other's viewpoint. No participant can repeat a position once it has been fully explained and understood. If a person does not agree with the views that have been stated, then they must fully explain their dissenting views. No one can impose their will or make decisions for another. All must understand the viewpoint and agree of their own free will. The goal is not total agreement, but total understanding. If there is no agreement, then the consensus is to retain the status quo. If there is understanding by all, then they go ahead with the decision. Although no one can assure that all will fully understand the other's viewpoints, one must try to explain as fully as possible, and the respondent must try to understand. The chief and the war chief who preside over the meeting make sure that the great law of peace and collective rational thought and behavior are followed. Persons are asked throughout the process if they fully understand. If not, the process stops until all explanations have been provided. One cannot be stubborn and refuse to understand, as they will be questioned and must follow the criteria of peace, righteousness, and power at all times. All human beings are capable of rational thought, which leads to solving even the most difficult problems. The underlying philosophy is that human beings are loving, caring, and wish to interact in a positive way. It is known that people cannot think clearly when they are in psychological pain, have feelings of rage, or lost hope. The consensual decision-making process must bring people from despair to hope. Every person has a responsibility to develop their mind. To think is to create a sane world for the present and future generations. A world safe from emotional, irrational behavior of people controlled by fear, hatred, greed, jealousy, suspicion, and conflict. The main obstacle to our survival is fear. 3 criterias. The clan considered... Wait, what time is it? All right. The clan considers... I'm going to look ahead real quick. Wait, okay. Maybe we're... Hold on. 97. Hold on. Okay. 97. All right, I think... Okay. All right, 97. There's more pictures to come, by the way. I don't know if I'll get to them in time, but 97. Page this, 97. Okay, cool. 3 criterias. The clans consider the pros and cons of the issues. 3 criterias must be met. 1. Siganen peace. Siganenen peace. Does it preserve the peace that is already established? Righteousness. Is it morally correct, just as the natural world is correct? Power. Does it preserve the integrity of the nation? What does it do for the present? And how does it affect the future? 7 generations. The 7-generation concept means that decisions made today must benefit the people 7 generations into the future. Like a planned economy. In a sense, the Diganawadia raised the idea of reasoned thinking to a principle. Every human being has the potential to use their mind to create a better life through peace, power, and righteousness. In entering the consensual decision-making process, whatever ideas are put into the process, the need and attitudes of each is considered and complements the decision. Also, the individual has a duty to be directly involved and to bring their ideas into discussion within their clan. The final decision will be fully satisfactory to some, satisfactory to others, and relatively satisfactory to the remainder, and well reflected elements from every group. This is the slow, careful process requiring and reaching a full understanding by each individual and not a decision made by a, quote, leader. The person who explains the decision is the spokesperson. Iroquois justice system. If the issue concerns a person's behavior, the accused may defend themselves, depending on the severity of the infraction. The accused have the right to be heard before the council fires of the men and the women of their clan and their chief statesmen and their nation, as well as the chief statesmen of the Confederacy. Basically, this is a trial by jury. Decisions have to be justified, rational, and follow the process. Defendant's voice is lost only after the final decision. The Iroquois Society, who's performing the court, quote-unquote, function, are persons who represent the people according to their own selection process. In the Iroquois Constitution, the people select the clan mothers, chiefs, and war chiefs, who can be recalled by people at any time. Adjudication is carried out with the advice, guidance, and wisdom of the people as a whole, who keep in mind the continuity and the genealogical information, history, traditions, and values of the nation, carrying out responsibilities as a burden, a duty, and a privilege. The crucial feature is that the people make the decisions. Should a clan feel unable to deal with an issue, they may pass the issue to other clans to be dealt with, depending on the issue. The Six Nation Iroquois Confederacy serves as a court of appeal to individual communities' issues, as well as a court of first instance in disputes that cannot be resolved at any community level. Great councils meet where the wisdom of the communities are pooled and applied. The four peoples the four peoples of indigenous law are: number 1, natural law; number 2, truth as the highest point of being, and justice as an application of truth; 3, applying respect in dealing with all matters; 4, liberty based on the first 3 principles. Let's see here, it's 15 minutes. 98. Let's see. 15 minutes. 15. Okay, wait. 15 minutes. Oof. This might be a good stopping point before we move on to this next section. This next section is the word that come before all matters. I'm going to try it. The Ohentan Tasi Gar Hinwati Wata Gunwin. The words that come before all matters. Wampum 7. I think I'm going to stop there. I know it's early, but I want to stop at a good stopping point. 98. 98. Who's here? Oh man, God, I never even brought them up.